Hi and welcome to WoW Flash, the weekly series where we have a look at the news features from the past week on anything at all related to World of Warcraft. So just as with last week, obviously quite a lot of the news points relate to bug fixes in Legion. We're not going to go through all those, of course, there's bound to be a number of them. Obviously there's not so many that it's really horrendous. I think probably the worst one, I'm not sure if they fixed this one yet, is partway through the Demon Hunter campaign when you're asked for some Obliterum. When you turn it in, it removes all your Obliterums. You sort of just have to have one in your bag. It puts me in mind of in Baldur's Gate when you turn in the Ankeg to Tyron, something like that. I can't remember, the armourer. And you can do one at a time, but he nicks the whole lot, so you just have to swap between chests. So stash it all somewhere else, I think is what I'd say. Mail it. Oh, you can't mail it. Oh, yes, you can. Mail it to someone else. Gems were changed. This is something that might affect a few people. Just sort of noticed. I didn't really see any great fanfare with this. When Legion launched, gems gave you 250 of a secondary stat, and now it's 150. And I think, you know, the reason that occurred to me when I noticed is basically the reason, and it's fair enough, that I think a lot of people were taking much lower item level items that had a socket in it. Now, of course, we should be used to the idea if you've got two items and they're sort of all of the things being equal, roughly the same item level, roughly the same stats, and one's got a socket on it, of course you take the one with the socket because that's better. But Blizzard have said for some time now, the whole point of item level is they want people to be able to compare items and know which one is better. Obviously, if you've got an item with a socket, that means that you can consider it to be better than something 20 item levels above, which in some cases, especially in combination with more suitable secondary stats on it, was actually the case. So they've done that. It seems a little bit strange to me that they've done a lot of heavy nerfing of the gems. And I'm not quite sure perhaps why it wasn't done earlier, because there was a period in beta. In beta, they were massive. The gems were absolutely huge in terms of the stats they gave, and there was a heavy nerf in beta. There was another one in the pre-Legion patch. If people remember when that came out, the normal WOD gems suddenly leaped up in value and then were brought back down a bit. They were still higher than they originally were, but significantly nerfed. So the only surprising thing from my point of view is surely they'd sort of worked out, because you can sort of work out roughly how many item levels does this make the item worth extra, and if it's too much then sort of scale it back before it ever goes live. But that's what they've done, and that's the reason, and the reason from my point of view is fine. Animation cancelling, which we've talked quite a bit, especially in my Demon Hunter videos, they are now sort of saying this should not be a thing. They'd already taken positive steps over the last few months, really, to try and stop that. This is the idea that with Fell Rush for Demon Hunters or Roll for Monks and whatever, any other similar abilities, being able to cancel the effect so that you complete the move, but you don't actually move very far. Sometimes it's a benefit to do that. Sometimes you get a secondary effect from using the ability that's got nothing to do with being a movement benefit, and is especially the case with Demon Hunters, and they've sort of stopped that now because they really don't want that happening. In more substantial news, the phone app is absolutely amazing. Just sort of, for those who haven't gone onto it yet, what I'm just going to do, let's just make sure I can show. Oh my god, it's still connecting. But I've now tried it. I talked about it a little bit earlier on this week when it had been announced, and so what I've got it on there is the actual world map. So you can actually have a look outside of the game at what world quests are available. And there's various things you can do on it. You can have a look and control your missions. So you can see your missions. So I can see I've got a couple in progress. So what I'm able to do with this is when I'm at work, during breaks or lunchtime or something, I can check it. If there's missions completed, I can send them out and do another one. This is really good, especially for the campaign, where sometimes you get missions that you can only do one at a time, but they can take quite a long time. They can take half a day. So maybe ordinarily you might only be able to do one a day. Maybe now you can do two, possibly. So you can get those stages out of the way a little bit quicker. I'm a bit behind with my Demon Hunter campaign, so this is certainly going to help. It's allowed me to do the other one probably a couple of days earlier. There's still another one to come up. I mean, that was only the first, so there is another one to come up. But it's really good for that as well. You can also put order hall sort of work orders in for your different troops and armaments or whatever you've got, as well as collect them. You can look at your followers. You can even upgrade them remotely. It's really good. And again, it allows that. And of course, people, I mean, some people, of course, don't like the missions at all. They see it as being a bit like a Facebook type game. And of course, the phone does nothing to dispel that myth, because it's something you can do now, not even while being in game. And in fact, you have to not be in game, because if you're logged in and then you log yourself in on your phone or tablet or wherever it is, it will automatically log you out of the game as well. So some people have said, actually, when you look at the world quest, it's actually better than looking at the map in game, because you don't have to hover over to see what the rewards are. You can sort of see an icon. All right, you have to click on it to see exactly what the reward is, but it sort of shows, you can sort of see, oh, that's a cloak, or that's an artifact power item, and that's just gold. So some people have said they actually prefer that for looking at which quests to do in advance. I myself sort of think, I think it's still quicker to do it in game. But let's say you're commuting on a train or something like that at home, or it's just at lunchtime and you look at what world quests have appeared that day and you're thinking, tonight, yeah, which ones am I likely to do? It is really, really good for that. It's excellent, in fact. In terms of other news, they've announced the sales figures. Remember, they're not announcing how many subscribers or anything like that anymore. That's sort of in the past now. But they've said how many copies of Legion have sold as of August the 30th. And it says it's over 3.3 million copies. Now, I don't really know how these sales things work. To me, I would look at that and think, oh, that's not very many. There's more WoW players than that. But in actual fact, apparently, that's on a par with the best figures they've ever had. And they've gone through here. So, previous expansions. The Burning Crusade, very popular expansion, sold 2.4 million in the first day, and then 3.5 million in the first month. So, obviously, we haven't got the first month's figures for Legion. Hasn't been out a month. Now, of course, you've got to bear in mind, Burning Crusade, there was no digital download, so you had to physically go and buy a copy, so I'm not sure how that affects it. So the first month figures will probably tell us more, so we'll wait to see. Wrath of the Lich King was 2.8 million on the first day, 4 million within the first month. Cataclysm, 3.3 million, so that's the same on the first day. 4.7 million in the first month. Mists of Pandaria, 2.7 million in the first week. The figures we've got for that, so it's not quite comparable. Warlords of Draenor, 3.3 million on the first day. They're not saying how many in the first month, or I don't see that information. And Legion, 3.3 million on the first day. So the same as WoD. So I suppose now retention is the key. Can they retain those players, have those players keep coming back and continue to play the game? Obviously, the signs are looking really good. So, yeah, look, future's looking healthy for this one. And I think people are sort of, will forgive and forget WoD if Legion makes good. And, yeah, all the signs so far are that it may well do. Certainly, there's plenty to do. The same things people attack WoD for, I don't think apply to Legion at all. It's worth, I think, at this point mentioning Suramar Dungeon. So, Court of Stars and the Archway, probably in the interests of the sanity of some of my guildmates. What they've had to do, because there's very few people that can get into these dungeons. A lot of people don't realise this. Now, to be fair, in many ways, how would they realise? Because when you're signing up for in pre-made groups and for dungeons, for mythics, you'll sign up for mythics. And you look and, oh, there's some dungeons there. Court of Stars and Archway. Oh, they sound really good. You look at the loot table. Wow. Oh, there's some really nice things in here. I'd love to do that. And they think to themselves, I've done some mythics. I want to do these mythics. And they look at the dungeons and you can't sign up for these. There's no like heroic or normal of these. It's mythic. So they just think, okay, well, it's mythic only. That's why I better gear. But I can do mythics. I've done some mythics already. So they queue up for it, not realising that actually there's achievement for it. So, people that have been trying to form groups with it are saying link achievement. There's a lot of people sign up and not linking the achievement. And perhaps they're thinking to themselves, Well, I don't need an achievement. I've done mythics. I can do mythic. I know what I'm doing. I might not have done it before, but just tell me what to do and I'll be fine. And without realising that people aren't asking for these achievements just to be snotty. You actually need them to get in. You physically can't get into the dungeon. I cannot physically get into the dungeon yet. My Surum and my Nightfallen rep is not high enough yet. Hopefully it will be this week at some point. I need to do so much questing there. But then also without losing sight of the Demon Hunter as well. But yeah, so, you know, you need at least 6,000, I think it is, into, you know, on you need to be honoured, and 6,000 at least. It might even be 8,000. Is it 6,000 or 8,000? Some considerable way in towards revered anyway. You don't actually have to be revered. As well as an achievement as well, a particular quest line that needs completing to actually just get access into these dungeons. And of course you'll need access into these dungeons to get your keystones, so you know it's something we'll certainly need to be doing before Mythic Plus comes out, but in the interest of there are some nice items in there, it's worthwhile getting that as soon as possible as well, on top of all the other priorities. Last couple of bits, there is a Twitch stream tonight, a live Twitch stream, not from me, but from World of Warcraft, where Watcher is going to do the next live developer Q&A. And I don't know what it's going to be on. I don't think there's a general theme other than, you know, Start of Legion type stuff. It's going to be on 11 a.m. Pacific time, from the US point of view, which would sort of put it round about this evening for me, quite soon, in fact. But what I'm obviously not going to do, I'm not just going to try and do a rush response to it. I'm going to mull it over and probably get, you know, my response to it, if indeed there needs to be one. But I think there does, because I think they've been portioning out information. I've said this before, so I think there will be some new information that comes out. How much, I don't know, because if it's just a Q&A, essentially just answering questions, isn't it? We might not get anything genuinely new coming up, but I think we probably will a little bit, a few tidbits. But I'll probably get that out like Sunday or something like that when I've had a chance to sort of go through it properly. And then I'll also be doing a Ret Q&A video this weekend. I've got a couple lined up. I don't want to say now, because last week I said I was bringing a particular video out and I then couldn't. In fact, there's two that I'd intended to bring out already and I couldn't. I've lost my memory stick that has all my scripts that I've been doing all over summer. So I've got to rewrite certain things. What pain. So I'm not going to say what, other than I will be doing the Ret Q&A this weekend. It's not a live one this time. It's just based on the questions I've had. Obviously, we had a big one just before launch, but a lot of people hadn't actually played it, so they're just going off what they've read, what they've seen. So now people have had a go at themselves. Lots of questions coming through, so I'm going to do my best to answer those. So if there are any last-minute questions, throw them my way. I'll see if I can sneak it in. And I think that's about it. So hopefully you found it interesting. As usual, if you have, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And until next time, I'll see you later.